Hey everybody, video here for you today. This is a video I wanted to make just because it goes along with all these videos I made about these Neolithic sites in the Mideast here. This site I talked about maybe 3.5 years ago, but that was kind of on a compilation video. So I wanted to make an individual video about this place today. Some new info has come out over the last few years. This is called Atlit Yam, and it's right down here under the waves. Now my last video, I think it was Friday or Saturday, I said I was going to go live last weekend, but I just felt like crap starting Sunday, so I really haven't done much the last few days. Getting ready to move at the end of the week. That is on the top of the priority list. But I thought I'd talk about this today. This place dates back almost 9,000 years. They dated it between 8,900 and 8,300 years old. Lies under about 8 to 12 meters of water, or up to 40 feet of water in this area. And there's been some pretty interesting facts brought out about this place. I just want to talk about a few of them today. Here is a story from April 2020, the 9,000-year-old megalithic settlement of Atlit Yam. A couple pictures there, a ritualistic burial, and I believe this is an ancient well they found under the sea here. It says, not far off the coast of the village of Atlit in the Mediterranean Sea near Haifa in Israel, lies the submerged ruins of the ancient Neolithic site of Atlit Yam. The prehistoric settlement, which dates back to the 7th millennium BC, has been so well preserved by the sandy seabed that a mysterious stone circle still stands as it was first erected. Here's the stone circle they found underneath the sea, and this just makes you wonder, how far back do stone circles actually go in history? Here is one look, an artist's reconstruction of what these look like standing, but there was smaller stones found here, flat ones with these cut marks in them. We found those at Göbekli Tepe. We find those in ancient America, and really all over the world. Here's one story that came out about a year ago, and this dates back to the pre-Pottery Sea Neolithic period. A lot of names for periods in history. It says about 9,000 years ago, the site of Atlit Yam was home to a vibrant village where several houses as well as a ritual place stood. A few centuries later, the area was submerged by the sea and today is located about 500 meters off the coast of Israel. And studies have found that the coast of Israel was hit by tsunamis back in this time period. I mentioned that in my video, I believe, on the site of Yiftahel, not too far away from here. But it says, among the remains of buildings as well as animals, plants, and even several individuals, marine archaeologists identified a number of circular installations made of heated mud bricks. And it goes on to talk about it here, and here is archaeological work being done, maybe 30 feet under the sea here on this ancient village. This is a pretty interesting article. It goes into some details here, these mud bricks, how they were made. It seems humans were starting to fire up mud bricks way back, about 9,000 years ago maybe. Once again, I will leave the links for this below. It's called Underwater Bricks Show Skills of Prehistoric Inhabitants of Israel. And Atlit Yam wasn't the only site discovered under the waves here. Here is the story that came out about a year and a half ago. Submerged seawall attests a futile struggle against rising seas in Israel 7,000 years ago. And one thing, studying ancient sites that were right on the coast of the Mediterranean, seems seas have changed the coastlines tremendously. But here is an artist's rendition. A seawall was found in front of this Neolithic village out here. Seems they were doing what we would have done today, put up a seawall. Here's an excellent paper, Excavations at the Submerged Neolithic Site of Atlit Yam off the Carmel coast of Israel. Underwater archaeology in Israel began in 1960. Already then, traces of submerged settlements were discovered. The first research took place in 1969. Says 6 decades of research has revealed 17 submerged prehistoric sites containing substantial and well-preserved finds that enlighten the knowledge of prehistoric coastal populations of the region. Among them are 13 Neolithic sites belonging to the pre-Pottery Neolithic Sea period. But it lists some of the other sites found here, so they are all spread throughout the coast, and doesn't seem like too much underwater archaeology has been done on these sites. Probably the best ones have been done at Atlit Yam here, and here is the village, and there is that well that I showed you at the beginning, and there it is again, the opening to it. Pretty interesting place, and there's that stone circle. Here is a diagram of that well and all the materials that were used in it. and they have the depth below the original land surface in meters here on the right and below the modern sea level on the left, but that is a pretty good construction coming from maybe 8,500, 9,000 years ago. Here is somebody diving on this over 9,000-year-old megalithic site here with the stone circle. We know stone circles go that far back in time. I think that is important. And I guess they have storms here during the winter and the sand shifts every year, and it looks different every season it is dove upon. Here's a look at some of the human remains. There was 91 areas found down below the sea where they found human remains. 46 of these sites were confirmed to be graves dug, but there is somebody maybe buried over 8,500 years ago. Here's another skeleton found at the bottom of the sea, but about 8,500 years ago they think the eastern side of Mount Etna collapsed and caused about a 10-story tsunami to just engulf this coast, and I have talked about that in one of my previous videos. But that is a huge tsunami, maybe 40 meters or 120 feet high. But I just thought this was very interesting. They also found 17 other underwater sites. I think that's very important. But here is one website, gives sea level rise, what it looked like 9,500 years ago, 9,000 years ago, 4,000 years ago, and then modern times. But an ancient tsunami might have done tremendous damage to this place about 8,500 years ago, but this was a very interesting article. Talks about other Neolithic underwater sites, and I will leave the link below, but there is that diagram I showed you before. The different coastlines, underwater burials here. This is all very fascinating, but it talks about coast of Cyprus here. If you lowered the water depth 100 meters, some of the stuff you would find, I guess there was maybe an ancient well found off of Cyprus here. Well, that is one video I really wanted to make. It was near the top of my list. It just goes along with other sites in the area that go back to this time period that we are just kind of learning about now. Hadn't learned a lot about that in the past. It's near the ancient site of Yiftahel. Remember that video, that ancient concretes and those weird skull coverings in their burials? Just thought I would talk about that tonight, maybe going live tomorrow night. Hope you thought that was cool, and you all have a very nice day.